Hey, everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's New Music Friday. We're super excited. You just heard Victim of the System. That's the very first track from Impellitteri's brand new album. Well, it's not just one album, there's 3 albums. So we had to start at the beginning, and we're going to close with the last song, too. The album is a 3 CD compilation. It is called Wake the Beast, the Impellitteri Anthology. Say that real quick 10 times. 20 times. Good luck with that. But we're super excited. It's out through Global Rock Records September 30th. So go pre-order, do what you can. I encourage you to go to their website, keep up with them. I mean, they've already got over 2 million albums sold. So go to impellitteri.net, and we're super excited to have lead guitarist Chris Impellitteri and lead singer Rob Rock on the show. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, and thank you for having us. It's our honor, our pleasure, and hopefully we can answer your questions.
Well, hopefully I can say your last name like 10 times real fast. That's a good name. I mean, and so and then Rob Rock, welcome to the show. Rob, do you guys, your names, how did this all happen with the names? Let's just start with that. Because you guys started the band together, right?
Yes.
Yes. My name, I guess they just put a little wristband on my wrist, said Robert Rock on the, when I was a baby. So that's how I got my name. But it's the polar opposite of Chris's name, which is hard to spell. Mine's easy to spell. So.
Yeah, I was like, I can do that. Thank God for Rob Rock. I can do one, and then it was like, okay, I can do the second part. But Chris, I mean, tell me about your last name. This is interesting. It's a good name.
Well, Impellitteri actually comes from my grandparents. There's many reasons why the band ended up being used on my surname, right? Impellitteri. One was an homage to my grandparents, because when I was a little kid, I lost my mother and father. I was literally 9 years old, and I became an orphan. No, it's okay. It's many years ago. So my grandmother and my grandfather, they're the ones that encouraged me to start playing music, right? They got me classical training. They really got me into music so I'd have a purpose in life. And so I kind of always felt indebted to them, right? Now, over the years, there's a long story, because when I first came to LA, you'd form this really awesome band. But at that time, everybody wanted a shortcut to stardom. So you'd have this amazing band, but then they get an offer from another band that just got signed to a major label, and you lose that guy. Then you lose this guy, and eventually people, at least the fans that you were trying to build, that core base, eventually be like, well, that's not the original band. Everybody's gone, right? So someone said in the inner circle, you like Van Halen? I went, I love Van Halen. They go, well, why don't you choose your last name? And when you're young, to be honest, I mean, it goes right to your ego. You're like, oh, okay. Not thinking it's the worst name in the world. I mean, when I started with Rob, had I known, where I'm at today, we probably would have called the band In Rock.
But Rob Rock is a badass name, too.
In Rock, I love it. Yeah,
exactly. It's a Deep Purple thing,
But Impellitteri feels kind of like Warrior. I mean, you got Warrior songs on the album, right? So, I mean, it kind of has this Impellitteri. I'm going to impale you. Don't mess with me.
So here's something. Rob will know this, especially my young years. And Rob used to kick my ass. In all sincerity, what people don't know is, so the first 3 letters of Impellitteri is IMP, right? Like Ice, Mary, Paul, which stands for imp.
I was going to say imp. So, yeah.
And you know what an imp is? Have you ever looked at the definition? It's an unruly child.
Oh, I always thought the imp
like,
Well, it sounds like you guys are doing good then. How did you, so you guys met, where were you? Because I know you're in LA now, and then Rob, you're in Daytona Beach. So let's get in a car and haul ass somewhere. Yeah. But actually, the last time I was in Daytona Beach, I watched a really cool Elvis impersonator on the beach. And then we got robbed in our hotel room. All our camera gear. Nice. That was years ago. But I do love Daytona Beach and I love that area. But, where did you guys start out from? Like what city?
Oh, we go way back to New England, back to Connecticut, Massachusetts area. Yeah.
Okay. What is it about New England and kick-ass rock? What is this? What's going on? Is it the weather? Like what is it?
Yeah. In the wintertime, you have no choice. You're locked away in a house or in a house together with your band guys or a studio, and you have no life. So we might as well just gravitate towards music and play an instrument.
I've learned you have basements.
Believe me, that's where all of this started. At least all of the bands I was in as a little kid. Rob, I'm sure you're probably going to test this. It was always in the basement in New England. Like I live in California now. We don't have basements, right? We have multi-story houses, but there really is no basement. And in New England, almost all my friends and families, they all had basements. So that's where the bands would rehearse and get together and party. And, and for us, it was a great, a great way to kind of develop our craft, especially, from probably like November through late March, So.
Yeah. We did a stint in Wisconsin during winter once, and they said, oh, December, we don't really get that much snow. It's February, you have to watch. Well, we had 3 snowstorms, and I learned very quickly that you can go stark raving mad. And then even if it's sunshine, it doesn't mean like California sunshine on snow that the snow will melt and you are going to go crazy. And I drank a lot of hot toddies. That's the one thing I know about when you go north, you have toddy time and it's a little crazy, but I can imagine like just getting in a basement and going for it. And you're doing guitars. You're insane, Chris. You're absolutely, it's insanity what you're, no, it is. It's like how, I don't know. I just picked up a guitar about a month ago and I haven't played for years. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, you have to start all over again with calluses and all of that. Like, it's insane. And then I'm watching you play and I'm like, you're nuts. Like, how are your fingers? Do you do exercises or you just play and bleed a lot?
Truthfully, I pretty much play every single day and I do it out of love. And so, my hands, the fingertips have calluses. So because I play all the time, but I also have a very light touch, especially when you're playing really fast. You don't want to be bogged down to too much pressure. So, my hands are actually in great shape. And, when I play, it's very comfortable. I mean, there's no pain, plus,
Wow.
I will tell you this, in this day and age, guitars, especially if they're set up well, the way they're manufactured, are just, they just play so well versus when I was a little kid, you'd have these strings were like, I'm exaggerating when I say an inch off the fingerboard, means you have to push down really hard. And with heavy strings, your fingers would end up bleeding. So guitars today are nothing like that,
And Rob, for you getting your start as a singer, do you play instruments or like, how did you get to that, like that pitch, man? Holy crap. You like start some of the songs. I'm like, holy shit, man, I can't do that. I mean, they'd make me go to choir or something.
Yeah. Huh? Well, I spent a lot of time in the basement, but I was playing drums when I started. So I was playing drums, singing backing vocals, and I remember while I was in high school, all summer long, I'd be playing drums every day, like 8 hours a day, singing all the backing parts I could come up with because I wanted to be in my brother's band. And he said, if you're going to be in my band, we're a vocal band. So you got to learn how to sing. You got to sing lead. So the first song I ever sang was Elvin Bishop, Fooled Around and Fell in Love while I'm drumming, So
this is really hard to imagine. I'm sorry, but it's hard to imagine right now. Like, So
just imagine like a 17-year-old singing, I must have been through about 1 million girls. That's the opening line to that song. I was like, huh?
Oh my God.
All I'm thinking about is drumming and singing. So, but eventually I got turned on to, Rob Halford and Ronnie James Dio and started loving heavy metal. And I've always loved bands like Bad Company and Led Zeppelin. And I've always loved bands like Styx in Boston and Kansas with like 3-part harmonies. So I would learn all those harmonies. And I was just kind of, I don't know, I think Chris can attest to this. I think you kind of get a little obsessed with what you're shooting for, and we just spent, I know I did, and I know Chris did too. We just spent all our later teenage years just focusing on our music and on our craft, because that's the one thing we wanted to be, was we wanted to be rock stars. So here's 2 kids in New England. I'm in Massachusetts, he's in Connecticut. We're both studying our craft like crazy until we finally met and joined forces together.
That's awesome. I mean, I think in your teen life, you're listening too. Like you're listening to every little thing, every little note.
Yeah. I would say singing is 50% listening, You really, you got to listen, you got to hear to stay in tune as well. But when you're learning, you're not only learning the notes, you're learning the tone and the pressure and how to get there and your sound. It's a lot to develop,
But you guys have like incredible dynamics with what you do, because sometimes heavy metal is just this big wall of guitar, wall of sound, and you've got to get to that balance part, which you guys have this you're theatrical, but not over theatrical. You know what I mean? It's a very you are hooked as soon as you listen. You're in the music, and I don't even want to say heavy metal in a way. I would just say like anybody that's into rock would get into it. You've had a series of albums and EPs over the years. I know, Rob, you've been in and out, and you're back. There's Graham in the middle.
Yeah.
But everyone's all here now. But your huge success came also not just in this country, but with the albums was over in Japan. Chris, how did that happen with Japan? I mean, I understand like sometimes the distribution deals, that's where it is. What's going on now for you to have 3 albums out? Do you feel like American audiences need to know more? Or did they kind of get shorted with you guys? Because I feel that way. I feel like I should have had this a long time ago.
But
I was in Africa, so don't blame me.
That's great. In the beginning, initially, our first record is called the Impellitteri Black EP. Has songs like Lost in the Rain and Burning and all of that stuff. And that was initially released independently on an independent record. And that was in the United States. And we were in a lot of the big, like at that time, heavy metal rock magazines, radio shows, and obviously all the guitar magazines. So we started to build a really big buzz. And I remember after that, Rob decided to do something with a producer named Dieter Dirks, who had done the band The Scorpions. And when he left, I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Long story short, I had to find a singer, right? Because Rob was my
Rob.
Yeah, it was, but it was one of those things where he was my writing partner. I was like, oh, what do I do? So I was friends with Graham Bonnet from years earlier. And, I spoke with Graham. He had just ended this band Alcatraz. And basically I said something to the effect of, I lost my singer and I have a new record deal we got signed by Sony Relativity because of the Black EP I did with Rob. And they wanted a record. And I was like, oh my God, how do we do a record? I'm not ready for this. So basically we brought Graham in. We started working. As a matter of fact, the first song we did was Stand in Line. And we decided to take a different direction because what Rob and I started with Impellitteri was definitely almost borderline thrash metal with strong melodic vocals and, crazy technical guitar playing and all that stuff. But the sound was established. With Graham, he was known for a different type of rock music, especially with bands like Rainbow and Alcatraz. So it's kind of forced me to go in a different direction with him. But where I'm going with this is, so we ended up getting signed by Sony and Relativity, and it was for United States of America, all of Europe and Japan. So here, America has access now to all of our music, right? So at this point, there's only the Impellitteri Black EP, which really is the sound of who Impellitteri is, right?
Right.
Along with Stand in Line, which is more of a tribute to kind of Graham's kind of style of rock. And so we got signed. Everybody had a great run. We ended up on MTV. The record sold really well. I was even the host on there. At that time, there's a really popular show called The Headbangers Ball. Right. They flew me to New York and I was their only host, I think, on that show at the time. So I did all of that stuff. We played some shows. The last show we did was actually the San Jose Civic Auditorium up near San Francisco. Totally sold out arena. It was actually Impellitteri and an artist named Pat Travers. And so we did that show. And I don't know, something happened. I remember we went home. Graham Bonnet was having some issues, I think marital issues with his wife. So at the time they were also in Australia. So he flew back to Australia. I get a great call from our management company saying, good news, this is for really America still. They told us we got the end of the Iron Maiden tour. This would have been around 1988. So we were going to do all of starting in Florida, right? Like Miami, all those places. We're going to do all the arenas with Maiden. And we get a call from Graham saying, I can't come back. He was working on issues with his wife. And unfortunately, that was the end of Graham for that period of time. And so thank God we got Rob Rock back inevitably. And this is where we end up going from America into Japan only at this time. And it was also, there are pros and cons to this. And it's kind of like the outcome is good. In the late 80s, as you know, the music started to change. Now, Impellitteri, we were always a metal band. I mean, I probably feel like we're probably more comfortable with bands like Metallica and Van Halen versus the 80s hair bands. We were never the hair band.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I was going. You are like hardcore, but there is still like I just want to say it, like, I can't compare you to Van Halen. I just cannot, and I will not do it. I refuse. I'm sorry, no offense to Van Halen, but seriously, it's just so elevated, and it is in your face, but at the same time, you have this melodic dynamic thing that is just, you don't hear it that often. I just appreciate it so much. And I think that's why you can get into the songs and you're so hooked so fast. That's, to me, I get excited. Like, dude, I'm going to get a speeding ticket.
No, that's great. Great. I mean, listen, we're honored that.
No, I don't want the ticket, but it's going to happen. It's going to be your fault.
But you know where I'm going with this anyway. So what happened is, so the 80s start to fade out, and a lot of our peers, they had sold millions of records on MTV. Well, I mean, MTV were playing their videos. They toured, they did great arenas, but all of a sudden grunge started to take over, and metal was really starting to fade out. And we start going into early 90s. And this is where Rob and I, we just got really lucky. We got signed by a label called JVC Victor. We had left Sony Entertainment, and JVC Victor, I mean, we're with them to this day since 1991. So it's just incredible. And Rob and I, we started really focusing on those markets that really embraced our music. And for a while, it was primarily just Japan, maybe some parts of continental Europe, but America, it was kind of like, we were kind of like the forbidden fruit, you know? And so we, I don't know what happened. I don't know, again, if it's luck. Maybe it was a lot to do with the Stand in Line and the Black EP. Somehow the Japan thing really exploded for us. We really gained a lot of notoriety, got covers of magazines, a lot of attention, a lot of tours, a lot of success. Again, I don't know why. I don't think we're better than anybody else. It's just maybe we're at the right place, right time, and our music struck a note or a chord or emotionally touched someone, you know? So anyways, so now all the 80s bands are trying to run to Japan to get success. And I found that we weren't competing with them. We had gone to a much higher level where, to be honest, we were really competing now with bands like Metallica for the cover of a magazine, or whoever, you know, was the flavor of the moment, whether it's Metallica, Pantera were big in the early 90s. So we were competing with bands at that level, you know, and luckily we held our own really well.
But you do. I mean, that's the point I'm making, is like, as soon as I tapped into it all, I'm like, dude, this is insanity. Like, it just, like, I wish I heard you sooner personally. Sorry, I didn't. You get me everywhere at any place. And I listen to a ton of music of all styles. And when I listen, you know, I really do hear a little bit of everything, but it's really just, you guys are in what you do. Like, there's no half-assing it. And putting the three together, having a 3 CD anthology, is like this mark of, we have done it. We have worked our asses off. We have been on like the stage how many times? We've been in the recording studio so many times. And to put that together, what was that like? I mean, you guys wrote together. And are you going to tour, before you get into the album, are you going to tour together? Like, what's happening with that?
Well, yes, of course. I mean, right now so the anthology is coming out, thank God, globally. So now the world will have access to our music. But as far as touring, so we're actually in the middle of writing a record right now and making our next record, because we owe another one to our record labels. We're signed to Frontiers for Europe and America, and JVC Victor still for Japan. So we owe them a record, which will probably come out mid or summer of 2023. And then at that point, we will do as many live dates as possible. Tour wherever they'll have us. That's the idea.
I'm wherever we are, and if you're there, we're there. That's it. We're coming to see you, because the energy is so amazing what you bring. And I think that's what I was saying about the dynamics of Rob, your vocals, Graham's vocals, both of you guys really are incredible. But you do, as a band, let each other have their place in a song, and it's hard to find sometimes. You know, it's like, oh, I'm going to take my guitar solo, but I'm going to wipe out the singer. You know what I mean? Does that come with playing over time, and like, okay, or does that come from, you know, duking it out in the basement when you were teenagers? How does that balance out? Because I know I'm a singer. I know what it's like to suddenly have to sing over the guitarist, or vice versa, and it's harder as a singer to sing over an amp.
Yeah, no, I think it comes down to songwriting. I mean, songwriting is a craft itself, and I think a lot of bands, maybe bands that are working right now, really focus on the song is really the key. I mean, you can have the greatest players, singers in the world, but if you don't have a song, you really don't have a platform to be heard. You know, if the song stinks, no one's going to listen to it. So we work really hard at making each song we come up with the best it can be, and use our songwriting craft that we know and learn from our history, and apply it, you know, and try to make the best music we can.
So I want to play Texas Nuclear, because you know I love this, right?
Yeah,
You know,
I love
so
it too.
I know. So this is like I'm like Stevie Ray Vaughan would love it too. Don't you agree? Like he would. He
Yeah.
would.
I would
He
hope so.
like, and you know, I'm thinking there's a whole host of people I'm thinking of, but so you've got a lot of the instrumentals on here. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll cut to that so people can take a listen.
Yeah. Well, really, when I do instrumentals, and you can say, "You're welcome, Rob."
You're
the way
welcome.
Rob sings live, I mean, he's insanely talented, and he's got this amazing range, right? So high tenor all the way up to probably alto, right?
Dude.
The problem with that is when you're playing for 2 hours and he has no break.
That's what I was going to say. Was this about him having a break? I was thinking.
No. But in truth, it paid off in that way, because there were times where, although I don't even know if we did those instrumentals live, we used to do this thing called Screaming Symphony, which we have a record called Screaming Symphony. But we actually have an instrumental song that we actually used to play live a lot called Screaming Symphony. And but in all sincerity, you know, the records at times, you know, these instrumentals just, the music speaks to me. I don't know. It's like a higher source that channels through me. I can't explain. It's weird. And at times you go, wow, that's a really cool song. And it just seems to speak, hey, I'm an instrumental version, right? And, you know, and at some point, you know, I think it gives the record a little bit of a rest, you know, right? Because our music tends to be very aggressive and very heavy and very fast often. So, you know, and there's a lot of, and even vocally, there's a lot of information. You know, one thing we've always, I don't know if you can hear this in our music, but it's probably because of Rob's background. He loved bands like Foreigner, Boston, you know, Queen, stuff like that. You're always going to hear those big anthem choruses.
That's what I'm talking about with the melody, the melodic. But even in the instrumentals, you're putting that melody in there. So to me, that's what's so interesting about here. You've got the vocals, you've got you're saying the song, of course, but you're able to still carry it. And there is a balance when you're listening. Yeah, you've got a perfect balance. When I'm going through all three albums quite a bit, when you're listening to it, you get that break. And I think having the instrumental just allows, I don't know, there's like a freedom in that too. But you do want the vocals back. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a breath. And, you know, but I got to be careful with instrumentals because, you know, over the years, I know because the last name's Impellitteri, right? So there's that dangerous connotation. I don't know if that's the right word, but there's that dangerous comparison where when I first started, a lot of people thought they wanted to lump me in with guys, you know, the Yngwie Malmsteens or the Steve Vais of the world. And I was like, no, Impellitteri has always been a band. Rob Rock, the other band guys are equally as important as I am. I mean, in all honesty, it's 4 or 5 guys.
And bass player,
James Pulley. They're equally contributing. I mean, you know, it's like without them, these records wouldn't sound the same. You know, I mean, I tried to explain to someone the other day to simplify it. If I didn't have Rob and even Graham on some of those records, if I had just pretend I had a singer that had no range, just a whiskey cigarette type voice, really deep, but no range, these songs would sound like crap. Sorry, they would. You know, it's what Rob brings, and even Graham with their range and their vocal power and their timbre and, you know, their melodic structure. It complements the aggressive metal so well. You know,
because of the hype, you know how a guitar can go so high, and then the vocals, like it's like this dueling, like there's like two snakes dueling in a way when you think about it, right? This high pitch, not that a snake does that, but it might when it does its little hiss. But you know what I mean? There's this high, like I'm going, and it's still physical and emotional, and it's balls and it's everything, you know, in there to get to that pitch, and having to do it with dynamics and the speed and then slow it down. I mean, it's a badass. What a good gig, man. You guys. So let's play Texas Nuclear, and here it is, everybody. So you heard Texas Nuclear. So tell us where that came from.
So we were doing the record Crunch, and it was a really aggressive record, right? Had a lot of energy. And I don't know, something motivated me. I was probably listening to like, look, I'm a huge early Van Halen fan, like songs like I'm the One, Full Bug. I mean, a lot of the, the shuffle, boogie kind of stuff. Of course, we all love early ZZ Top, I mean, that stuff was awesome. And, I did love the instrumental guys. I certainly loved Devise and the Satrianis. And so, I don't know, I just started playing one day and I was shredding and I fell into this riff and I went, oh, that's really interesting. And before I knew it, the song just started coming to me, and I started just playing it. And, then I played it for our drummer and bass player and we started jamming it. And, before I knew it, the song was done and we recorded it.
I love it. I love it. I just, maybe because I'm from the Southwest and, lived there for so long and, into everybody you're talking about. And and I understand what you're talking about, the shuffle part. And I think that's a part of when you're songwriting. When you guys write, are you going from the vocals, Rob, when you're writing? Are you going for the melody, the lyrics, or how are you guys writing this? Are you going from the guitar part? How does this happen?
Well, usually I'm riffing off of Chris riffing. Chris is a great riff master, and he comes up with some great riffs, and that inspires me to bounce off of it. And usually when I'm writing, I write 2 or 3, sometimes 4 different versions of the song, and then I also have Chris as a songwriter to bounce off of too, and he might have ideas to interject. We both go back and forth with titles and ideas, and it's not just a one-off thing. We're both working together to make sure that the vocals complementing the guitar parts and vice versa. And especially in the big choruses, we both like that, so we work together on those as well. So it's really a band effort towards the whole song.
And so the new album, you guys are you still in the writing part or the recording part?
Writing part.
Yeah.
Some rough ideas and stuff have been recorded, but still finishing the writing part of it. Yeah.
Isn't it fun to write? Like, is it?
Yes, look, I mean, it's the most.
It's blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes. You know what it's like? It's like starting with a blank canvas, right? And just being able to express yourself emotionally, whether it's through singing or through playing an instrument. I mean, it is really gratifying. I don't know what life would be without it. As a composer, right? For us, both of us, we write music. That's what we've done pretty much our whole adult life. And I don't really know any other life or any other, other medium. So for me, I mean, when people ask me, I mean, is it rewarding? Well, yeah, especially when it turns out good. It's not so much fun. I will say this. It's not a lot of fun though, when you work your ass off, forget my language, but on a song, you think it's the greatest thing ever. And then everybody's looking at you like, what? And then you get some clarity, you get away from it. You listen back months later after you spent like, a month trying to work on a song, and go, oh, that sucked.
Oh, see?
So, yeah.
Because we do obviously a lot of interviews with authors to musicians, and songwriting to me, when we talk with authors, it's like, don't edit yourself. Some will edit themselves as they write. And I go, dude, how do you do that? Because you're going to lose the flow. Like, to me, you got to go with the flow and then you can play edit later. So with songwriting, this is a whole other process, because it's not just the words and you start creating the rhythm with the words. There's the lyrics, there's obviously the lyrics, but there's a music part too. So now things start, it's like this dual highway for writing songs and then you have other people involved, which writers who are writing a novel, some people have a couple people help them, but seriously, it's this crazy train. Is there anything where you started to write it and go, no, we can't do that? That's like pushing this, you can't do this. Or do you go, let's go with the stuff we're not supposed to do?
I think our whole career is we've done what we're not supposed to do. I don't think we've ever been politically correct or basically adhered to pop culture. I think we've always been a band that we just do what we want, what makes us happy first. And if it touches other people, right, our music, then awesome, right? But we've never been confined, oh my God, you know, today dance music's popular, or rave, or whatever else. Let's go down that road. You know, we've touched on some experimental stuff, I'm sure, but yeah, you know, I mean, no, it's just, you know, we just do our thing, you know.
Do you ever think about politically the climate? Because some of the songs I think are very timely. No matter when they were recorded, they feel timely. You know what I mean? I feel like some of the songs allow us to give the middle finger to a lot of people, and I'd like to dedicate them. Certain people, you know, I could send them to different, you know, organizations, different people that aren't even human, quite frankly. I don't think anymore. So, I mean, do you think about that when you're writing?
You'd have to.
Are you giving people the finger?
Yeah, Rob would have to answer that, because I mean, I do the music, right, with the band guys, but Rob pretty much writes all the lyrics.
Are you giving people the finger? That's what I want to know.
Oh, am I giving them finger?
Yeah, like certain songs, I'm going. Someone is giving.
It depends on who you are, because I know when I'm working on lyrics, a lot of times I'm writing in a way that I want to express what I'm thinking, but I also don't want what I'm thinking to be a straight shot. I want it to be able to be interpreted by the listener. You know what I mean?
For it to be for them to have it for themselves.
Yeah, to take it. I put it out there in a way that they can pick it up personally from where they're at in their life. And maybe that helps with the timeliness of it, because you're not, you know, you're not doing the old a wham thing or something that's just time stamped. You know, I like to do something that's has more longevity, you know.
You guys do.
More people that can relate to a lot of words have double meanings. A lot of titles have double meanings, and you know, a lot of times I'll use even imagery from the Bible or something that is timeless like that, so people can gravitate towards it, not only in where their space is in life, but what they believe in, you know. So it's like,
yeah, I mean, to me, it's everyone's own journey, right? When you listen to music, look at a painting, go to a show, it's your own feeling, and I think that's this personal thing you get to have with music, and it's
important they relate to it personally too.
I think it's a relationship. Like, you know, we talk about having a relationship with a husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, family, all these different relationships. I believe that people have a personal relationship with the arts, whether it's reading, looking at a painting, listening to music. There's a personal relationship that no one can tell you what you can like or don't like.
Right.
Like, this is unedited. I think the arts is probably the most purest we can be, you know, unless we get into religion. I'm not going there.
I've grown up with songs that I hear now, you know, 20 years later, and I'm like, I really didn't know he was singing about that.
Yeah.
I thought it was something else. I related to it 20 years ago on a different level, you know? And I just, someone mentioned that song Cats in the Cradle by,
Harry Chapin. Yeah.
Harry Chapin. Okay, I heard that as a kid. Cats in the Cradle. I didn't really know what he was talking about. Now that I'm a little older, now that I have my own son, now I know what he's talking about, really. You know what I mean? But songs like that you still hear, they're still playing, they're still touching people. So when we're writing our music, we want to touch people. Number one, you got to please yourself, because neither Chris nor I, we're not going to put out something that we don't like, you know? And that's like when I said I'm writing it, I write 3 or 4 different versions. It's because I'm trying to find what I like, you know, and what I think will reach others as well. And then I bounce it off of Chris, and Chris is like, yeah, that's right. And I feel like, okay, I'm on the right track. Now let me finish this thing. Or he'll say, you know, why don't you try this?
Do you do that?
And I can go down this road. You know what I mean? But I'll try. I think I need him to bounce off of.
Yeah.
You know, I need that feedback.
And the honesty. Have the honesty. Yeah.
And then when we're both together saying, yeah, go down that road, that's the way we want to go with this. It agrees with my guitar, with the song structure. It agrees with what you're doing lyrically, and it's heavy metal, and we love it. And that's what we go for. We, you know, once we have our direction, we both add our strengths to it. James comes in and does what he does to it, and that's where you get the band vibe, because we're vibing, man. You know,
yeah, and it's a cool place to be, but it's so sometimes really like hard to get there. It's like needing to go to the bathroom and you can't, right? You know, and that sounds terrible, but I just had to go there because like I did. But it's a really, and especially if you have a label like you're talking about, you've got to get this album out, right? So there's that balance of being able to let it be, but then if you don't have like some kind of deadline, it could not happen. You know what I mean? How is that, Chris, to get that all to work and get it out there? Because at some point you have to pull the plug on the and the go back and forth thing, right? You have to.
Yeah, you do. I mean, well, although I got to be honest, one really cool thing with our record deal is we've never really had stringent time restraints. Right. It's probably why a lot of times there's been 4 years in between our releases for records, because to be honest, we do tend to take our time, you know, because the reality is if we are happy with it, then we know it's done. Right. But we have always, I think we've always been a band that we also want to go the extra mile to make sure the music is as good as it possibly can be. Right, including our performances. And there are times where you want to capture more of a live vibe. And if there's any mistakes, sometimes those mistakes are magical and you leave them in. But for the most part, you know, I don't think we've ever really been forced, maybe 1 or 2 times where you're forced, you're like, oh my God, I got to finish this record. We got to turn it in or else we're in trouble. For the most part, we basically have to have managers or ourselves shield the, you know, the bullet of, hey, when are you going to give us a record when we're turning in? And we're like, dude, when it's done, we'll let you know.
Hide behind the symbol.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah. So putting this together, all three, I mean, 3, that's why I wanted to play a track from each of the 3, because you could have just done one big one. I don't know if that's technically possible, or 2, but breaking it down into 3, how was that? Because, you know, people are still putting it in as a, like its own fresh album, each one. How was that putting all these songs together?
Well, a lot of that. So we finally let someone in our family, in our world, manage the band. A guy named Giles Lavery, and Giles is a great guy, and he's a huge Impellitteri fan, and he's managed other artists in Europe, and he's a great singer, great musician as well. And he really came to us with the idea, right? And he had such a passion about it, so he had a lot of ideas of what he thought was representative of the band, the great music, whatever. And also, you know, over the years when Rob and I tour, we played some major festivals. We've headlined some mega places with 30,000 people. And the reason I'm telling you that is we kind of, over the years, know what the fans want, right? We can hear them when they're screaming in the audience, telling us they want to hear this or that. They'll yell the song titles. And so you start to get a feel with what they love, maybe what they don't like. And I know over the years, it kind of was a consensus of what seems to be our more popular songs. And then also what we did on this record is we would sneak off and kind of go to the, you know, like the YouTube areas where someone might have ripped us off or ripped a file and uploaded it. But before, if anybody took anything down, we'd first go and look at the comment sections and just kind of look at, well, do they like it? So if there's a lot of, man, this is the greatest thing ever, we love it, we know, oh, okay. And if there's a lot of those type comments, great. Versus if you see a bunch of going, man, this band sucks. What are they seeing now?
Dude,
you probably may think, well, maybe that's not the song. Yeah.
We pets it. We have dogs.
Me too, but they're little dogs.
But well, listen, they'll get your ankles. So, you know, don't mess with the little dogs. I know them. They'll get you. But, you know, but I think that's really good. So the connection to the fan is really a big deal. And I love that. And we really want to see you on tour and in this country and then, you know, and everywhere, because music is global, right? And you're on Global Rock Records. So you got to go global.
Gotta go
like
global.
that. But I mean, I want to see it live because this is just, it's too, your sounds are, the album, the whole thing, going through all 3 albums of the album, it just feels live and warm. So there's a real good warm sound to it. And I was listening to that as it's so, sometimes things are so produced and crisp clean, and it's just almost like listening to steel. Like, I don't care how good the album or the music is, but when it's so pristine, you know what I mean? There's a warmth and there is a live feel, like you were talking about.
It's probably because everything we do, we can play live and we can do it pretty easily. You know, I mean, it's because we are a live band. There's no doubt about it. We probably shine as a live band. I mean, all the concerts we ever played, for the most part, have all been great. you know, and it's also because we're passionate about what we're doing. It's not a job. It's not a chore to us.
I can tell you guys are
it's
in
a
it.
privilege. Yeah, it's a privilege. It's an honor. You know, we love doing it. So
and you get to do what you like. Yeah, I want to
exactly.
each of you, because both of you are insanely good. And I know, of course, now being a drummer, I'd be like, you have to have the most badass drummers play with you when you tour and record, because like they have to keep up and round you up. Like, how do they like maintain this? Like it's epic, right? But a tip for people starting out, and I feel like metal is like, I almost feel like it's the return of metal. I don't think it went away, but it's kind of like, it's like we're tired of, we really do need to get rid of the wham wham music that's going on right now. If you listen, you know what I mean? You turn on the radio and it's wah wah, and all the guys are wah wah. No, stop the wham wah whiny singing like baby crying crap. Stop it. We need to come back with some hardcore real rock music, you know? So I think it's great, but I want to know a tip for people getting started vocally and then guitar wise or songwriting, whichever you want to do. Chris, let's start with you. Someone getting out there and really, I'm going to shred, man. I want to do this right. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to do this as a career. What would your tip be?
Well, obviously, dedication.
Don't roll your eyes at me and do the wah wah.
Dedication and practice, right? I mean, I took lessons. I mean, like learning music theory and all the modes and time signatures and, you know, every possible scale and how to utilize it and apply it. And I took lessons for years, you know, and then because I was just so addicted to playing guitar, I found myself playing guitar sometimes 12 hours a day, you know, to the point, especially in the early years, your fingers are almost bleeding. And so it was that dedication that allowed me to, I don't know, hone my craft or develop my artistic abilities, you know. So my advice to anybody is, and do it because you like it, right? Because if you hate doing it, well, what's the point, right? I do it because I love doing this, and it allows me to express who I am internally, you know, through the instrument. So
I love it. Yeah, the foundation part, and it's hard work to like, okay, I just want to go from here to here. And there's so many guys. I was looking at on YouTube. There's so many people taking it and doing like the chicken song and everything. Everybody's doing all these different, you know, chicken picking, all these different and like they're copying you and doing it. And I think it's great, because if you really want to learn how to use your fingers fast, like go do that. Like seriously.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I see it. I like on YouTube, I see literally, I don't know if there are thousands or hundreds or whatever, but there's a lot of kids that learn like songs like 17th Century Chicken Picking, which is one of my instrumentals.
Yeah.
And I think, man, I mean, look, it's brutal for me to play it. I can do it, but it takes a lot of discipline. And I see these kids doing it all the way from start to finish. And a lot of them are doing it really well where they've mastered. And I think, how many hours or how many weeks did they spend learning the piece of music? You know,
that's part of the foundation of music, though, because you do have like some of the scales in there, and then there's like that Baroque sound in there too. I'm like, this is some crazy stuff, man. That's what Nancy says. Hi, by the way. We're on deadline with all these new magazines, and I was playing her your music today. She's, man, this is some crazy people music. This is good shit. She was like, she's loving it.
Thank you.
No, crazy, and she means that in a that's like a thumbs up. That's the mama thumbs up. It's good. So, awesome. Rob, to you, what's your tip?
My tip is pick your favorite cover song you want to learn, a song that you like, that you want to emulate. Learn it, rehearse it. And then when you think you got it down, I want you to do it again and record yourself live.
Ooh.
Record yourself live and listen back, because what I've learned when I was coming up, I played a lot of live gigs in clubs, and we recorded every night. And I would come home and listen to that song, and I thought I had a great night singing. And I'd hear this new song that we learned and we performed, and I'm like, I don't like what I hear. I have to work on this part. I don't like this area. You know what I mean? And when you could think you're good, but until you record yourself and hear yourself back, that's when you know where you got to put in the work and get it down even better, or, you know, pick another song to learn. Because
that's really good for all bands, actually, as a band, to do that. Because I mean, the band we had, like, there was band drama, and I mean, I was posting about this the other day. Our band broke up while we were covering Sweet Madam Blue. And as a
Oh, I love
vocalist,
that song. Yeah.
I know. And it's like one of the best parts because of the harmonies. And then it's like dun, dun, and then the drummer and the rhythm guitarist decided like they were going to fight each other on stage. And then the audience thought this was part of the show. And it wasn't. But as a singer, I'm going, now I have to sing this whole thing. And like, it was crazy and just, it was fun. And the bass player was on his knees just giggling. So that just shows how far we went with our band. But if you recorded shows and live, not just in there, people, we as a band would argue about, no, you did this, no, you did that. But if you recorded the live, it would, and everybody could go home with a tape, but I'm now dating myself, but like a tape or whatever now, MP3, everybody just shuts up and gets right back to work because everybody heard exactly what they did right or wrong and didn't have to say anything to the next person, really. It was there.
No, yeah.
That's a really good tip. Really
thank
good
you.
tip.
Yeah.
And you may all keep your band if you do it. And not break up on stage. But we're going to close with I'll Be With You. So you want to give us some background on this, Chris? Because this is the very last song on the album.
Yeah, this is one of our fan favorite records. It's from a record called Screaming Symphony. And, it was myself, Rob Rock, James Pulley, and a drummer named Ken Mary, who at the time was playing with Alice Cooper. And we brought in a producer named Michael Wagner. And Michael had produced, he did everybody. He did Master Puppets, Metallica. He did Motley Crue. He even did Janet Jackson. I mean, he did a lot of big bands.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. When we did Screaming Symphony, Ozzy had just finished doing the mix for Ozzy Osbourne's No More Tears record. I remember Ozzy left the studio and we came in to do the Screaming Symphony record, at least the mix of it. And it became an instantaneous, one of our fan favorite records. I remember, I think I won Best Rock Guitarist in Burn Magazine Readers Poll, which in Japan, it's their biggest metal magazine.
Kicked ass. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then people just love what Rob did on it. And I'll Be With You is just one of those songs where it's got that energy and it's just, just aggressive, but it's got amazing melody too. I love Rob's voice in it.
Yeah, a lot of harmonies on that record.
Yeah.
A lot of vocal work. Yeah.
It's all really good. So everyone, again, this is all out and on September 30th. Okay. So again, it is called Wake the Beast, the Impellitteri Anthology. Go get it. Go to impellitteri.net. Go on their website. You guys are on all the social media and everything, right? Facebook and all of that.
Yeah, but we never really do much with it. So we
just go listen to the music, buy the music, listen to it, go catch a show. Yeah, really. Go catch the show. I do got to give a shout out to our friends of our sponsor of today's show. You're not going to believe this is a bed and breakfast, a Victorian bed and breakfast in Asheville, North Carolina. It's called The Lion and the Rose. And Steve and Karen Wilson, they're very good friends of ours. They are total metalheads. They've got the tattoos. They're like, we want to sponsor the heavy metal, all the hard rock music. And I'm like, we're not stopping you. But they get to a lot more concerts than we do. Every time we talk to them, they're like, we were at this concert, man. You're not going to believe it. We just met. I'm like, dude. So anyway, everyone, if you go to Asheville, North Carolina, which you should, because it's an awesome.
I've been there. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. Beautiful.
Go to lion-rose.com. Go stay at their bed and breakfast. You guys contact them if you go. They'll take care of you. I'm telling you, they take care of everyone. And they do know how to party. And they make beer in their B&B. And when you check in, you get a glass of homemade brew, which is really cool. So go check them out. They're celebrating 4 years. So happy anniversary. They've been together for years, but anniversary, Steve and Karen. But everyone, again, impellitteri.net. Also look up Global Rock Records. Go get it. September 30th is the day. Here it is. I'll be with you. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.